Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines here. We got Gary Gensler talking about the spot Bitcoin ETF and so many other questions like, can Bitcoin be banned still? We're going to talk about it. You're going to hear him answer it. SEC versus Ripple, ladies and gentlemen. The SEC is making moves. We got an update in the case. You're going to need every single bit of it. How about Ripple quietly buying back $285 million worth of shares? How about it? How about this? A technical analyst says XRP midterm target, $256 to $333. How about somebody roll that beautiful intro?
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. Right now, it's $1.83 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is off by 5.2% in the last 24 hours, 44,500 plus for Bitcoin, 2,600 plus for Ethereum. Tether market cap is 94.2 billion plus. XRP is 58 cents. We're off by 3.3 on the 24-hour and up 4.3 on the 7-day. The range of price very quickly is between 58 and 60 cents. As you can see, we're currently falling like a manhole cover from the sky. But you know what? We got a chart you're going to want to see before you get out of here today. And I touched on this very quickly in the video this morning about Elon Musk and Starlink. And when it comes to understanding that the World Economic Forum has suggested that we're going to see a cyber pandemic, not just an attack, but a pandemic by 2025, I sure hope that Starlink can help avoid this from happening with the launch of the new satellite system that is better placed, higher tech, closer to the ground, so we can all continue access and how we are globally connected with the internet experience. I really do, because I do feel like this is going to be a big, big issue if we don't have a new system in place like Starlink. Oh boy. Okay, I'm not going to lie. So this is not the fun part of the video, but it is a necessary part of the video, because until this guy is no longer the SEC chairman, we're going to need to know what's going through his crawl. So let's go ahead and get to it here and hear his response to the approval of spot Bitcoin ETFs.
First on CNBC, following that decision that some have described as historic, is SEC Chair Gary Gensler. Chair Gensler, we appreciate you being with us. Let me start by asking you this. Do you consider the decision historic? And it appears that it's a decision that you made either reluctantly or perhaps even begrudgingly.
Well, look, Andrew, this has been considered for a long time. As you know, starting under Chair Clayton, we had disapproved a number of these over the years, and something had changed. I'm a deep believer in the rule of law and a respect for the courts, and taking a new court decision into consideration, we move forward. I think this is the most sustainable path forward.
So it appears, though, from what you're saying and reading through the decision as well, that what changed is not necessarily something inherent to crypto or Bitcoin per se, but what changed was what the courts did. Is that the way to think about this?
Well, again, I mean, we do everything here at the Securities and Exchange Commission within the law and within how the courts interpret those laws. And that's what the American people expect, and that's what we do here.
What is your message to investors about Bitcoin now? Because we're going to have all sorts of public investors now potentially have access to Bitcoin in a way that they didn't before. We were just talking to Larry Fink. He said that he got a huge wave of new investors getting into Bitcoin through this ETF. You have still suggested to be cautious about it, and I'm trying to understand how you think about those cross currents in terms of the message you're telling investors. Well,
look, Bitcoin itself, we did not approve, we do not endorse. This is a product called an exchange-traded product, a way that investors can invest in that underlying non-security commodity called Bitcoin. But yes, investors, I think, should be aware that the underlying asset is a highly speculative, volatile asset, and amongst its use cases is really for illicit activity, money laundering and sanctions and ransomware and the like. And I know that you've asked other people over the last few days, is it being used as a store of value? It's a speculative, volatile store of value. Is it being used as a payment anywhere? Are we buying cups of coffee with it? Not really. The only payment mechanism it's being used for, in sort of in a primary sense, is illicit activity. So I think you've been spot on about that, Andrew.
Very quickly, you can hear him driving the narrative because Elizabeth Warren's told him to do so. He's a puppet, right? But the reality here is, very quickly, we'll get back to this because we do need to hear the other half of this. But here's what I'll say. We all know that there's been no more better tool used for illicit activity than the U.S. dollar.
So just on that note, Mr. Chairman, this is out, and I'm not going to take either side on the whole thing, and it's kind of funny. But these are, I don't know the exact units, but if you look since 2017, what's been used to launder money, 20,000 is the unit for, 20,000 is the unit for a dollar, 33 is the unit for Bitcoin. So that's a multiple of I don't know how much for dollars being used for money laundering versus Bitcoin. But now I could see Bitcoin bears saying, really? Well, it's not even good for money laundering. Then it has zero value. I could just see that as another arrow in the quiver for the bear case. But the question I wanted to ask you was this: let's take the continuum. Let's take the rat poison, Beanie Baby, Jamie Dimon, Charlie Munger versus we had yesterday on our Coinbase CEO. Did you hear him make the case for Bitcoin? I mean, it was almost like a symphony to Bitcoin bulls, Chair Gensler. The proof of work, akin to gold. Every monetary aspect we've had for thousands of years is represented perfectly. And Tom Lee, there's never been a mistake on the blockchain out of trillions of transactions. You understand it. You taught at MIT. Which is it? Is it a Beanie Baby in your view, or is it something that has inherent value that's going to be part of the financial system decades from now? Which is it?
Look, no doubt there are innovations within this field, and those innovations, which I taught about at MIT, around a ledger system. It's just an accounting system called the blockchain technology. But there's an irony in the midst of this. Satoshi Nakamoto said this was going to be a decentralized system. And finance, this has led to centralization. Think about the irony of those who say this week is historic. This was about centralization and traditional means of finance that investors who could already express themselves in Bitcoin, you could already, before this week, buy it through major brokerage houses. But now you can buy it through this thing called an exchange-traded product
but the
as
underlying
well,
asset still has
centralized.
The underlying asset still has the decentralized, distributed ledger, all those characters. That sounds like a, I don't know. That sounds like
no, Andrew. With all respect, there's a lot of centralization here, and even the underlying ledger is largely the Bitcoin's produced by a handful of mining companies and the like. And so I'm just saying now, in terms of monetary history, we have a dollar, we have a yen, we have a euro, we have the renminbi, and there's a reason for it because we do have a common economy that relies on those currencies.
Chair Gensler, let me ask you this, though. Is there a possibility, despite the fact that this has been now approved, that this spot ETF has been approved, that you could see a day where Bitcoin itself in some way would be outlawed? I ask because if you recall, and now there's a lawsuit taking place between Coinbase and the SEC. They went public, and they've now made, you've come back and said there are certain unregistered securities and the like that are on their platform. They say, well, if you approved us the first time, how can you come back and say that this is not kosher? And so I think there is this other question about, and I know you're not endorsing Bitcoin, does that still open up the possibility that Bitcoin could somehow come under fire from the SEC or some other agency?
Look, let me talk about this field more broadly, and the American public is aware of this. It's rife with conflicts. It's rife with fraud and abuse. Without prejudging any one token, many of these tokens, I would suggest a majority of these tokens are actually securities under the securities law. And so the platforms, the various places that you might buy or sell these crypto security tokens need to come into compliance with the federal laws.
What did you make of what Elizabeth Warren, who was very supportive of you taking this role originally, coming out and saying the SEC is wrong on the law and wrong on the policy?
Keep listening.
I have deep respect for those who may have been on the other side of this. But again, I have a deep respect for the law and how courts interpret the law. We had the D.C. Circuit, a three-judge panel rule on this. We looked at it, and I thought this was the most sustainable path forward.
How do you think about other cryptocurrencies? People are now talking about whether there should be an Ethereum ETF and the like. Is that something you think you would take on proactively? Is that something that ultimately, in the same way that Grayscale had to go to court, does the court decision around Bitcoin to you act as a precedent on other currencies?
Listen to this.
I look at what we did this week as it's cabined to one non-security commodity called Bitcoin.
He literally just gave you a designation that said it is a non-commodity. I mean, it's a non-security. It's a commodity called Bitcoin. He literally just told you that. Now, he wouldn't answer it just moments ago when he was asked directly, but now he's saying and acknowledging that this particular sole asset is, in fact, a commodity. Now, that's good news, but it's still a regulatory opinion and not legal clarity. And that's where I have a problem for people who are like Bitcoin maxis. Look, I want you to be right. I don't see it as a security, but we obviously can't trust Gary Gensler. I think we all know that, no matter where you stand in this space. So when a dude like this is saying out of one side of his mouth he won't answer the question 2 minutes earlier, and now is saying in the description that Bitcoin is in fact a commodity and not a security, I still don't take that as anything that is measurable, because this guy cannot be trusted. Now, we got to keep moving. We got a lot of information to go over like this. Remember when we covered this just a couple days ago? SEC versus Ripple has been quiet, too quiet. Well, Fred Rispoli was right, because James Filan came out, shout out to Jim, and told us that the SEC has filed a motion to compel Ripple to produce its financial statements for the year 2022 and 2023, and B, its post-complaint contracts governing institutional sales. Jeremy Hogan responds back here and says, if I was Ripple, I'd email the SEC. We agree with your argument and will produce all requested documents ASAP. Then, 15 minutes later, I'd email, my email account was compromised, and actually, we still ain't producing nothing. See you at court. Yeah, that's fun. Even though we all want the case to be over, that is fun, Jeremy. Then this, he is asked, so what now? And basically here, looking at this, in response to them being too quiet, Fred Rispoli says, I can read Jose Tenrero's mind like a book now. SEC filed their motion to compel further discovery today. Looks like the SEC and Ripple aren't playing nice after all. And that's what we need to know. And listen, what do we understand? Ripple wants to go public. And who do they have to file with in order to do that? The SEC. The same one that they happen to have this last sticking point of the case over investment contracts for institutional sales. So it's no mistake while we're at this juncture, right, where the SEC is playing hardball now, and Ripple actually has time on their side, right, which is why they're going to delay. And you'll see that in a second here. But hot take is, for what's up for this, is Torres will partially grant the motion, is what Fred Rispoli believes, compelling certain info. But you can tell from the SEC's position in this letter that it is going to use the damages motion due in March to reframe a portion of its losses suffered at the July 23 motion for summary judgment. And we'll see what Annalisa Torres does with that, because I don't think she's going to take too kindly to someone trying to reframe their arguments. And here we see a motion has been filed for extension by Ripple of time, requesting an additional 2 days until January 19th to respond to the SEC's motion to compel. And you know what? Good for Ripple. Because you know what? They did win the majority of the case, and we already know what's behind the SEC's intentions, and they're not good. It is not to protect investors. This has been a jurisdictional power grab, and you could even argue that this has been, watching a government agency be completely compromised under regulatory capture to serve the interest of a few. You could make that argument, and what a sad commentary that is. But that's where we are on this day. And don't forget, Ripple, as far as I'm concerned, is quite bullish on their situation, as they have initiated a $285 million share buyback that values the company at 11 billion buckaroos. Come on in. That's exciting to me, ladies and gentlemen. I got news for you. That tells me Ripple would rather buy the shares back than to watch them out here selling to other people, because I think they know the hand that they're holding is pretty damn good. And they're like, we'll buy those shares back at a nice price, because they believe they'll be worth even more later. That's my take on that, not financial advice. And neither is this. But boy, do we love where Dark Defender woke up today. He says, hi all, our midterm target didn't change and stays at $333 for XRP. Today I'm updating you on 6-month time frame, which means one bar represents 6 months on the chart. I shared this Elliott wave structure many times in 2021 and told you it was as a long-term target, and it has been revised to a midterm target. Many copied the structure on some other exchanges and found the targets nowadays. However, I am happy to see people learn the Elliott waves apply to the same structure and find similar and close targets, but this was here since we set 2021 as a long-term target. So if the structure basis is 382 as an all-time high, the precise Grand Wave 3 target becomes $333. If we apply the structure on Binance's figures of $3.55 as the all-time high, the target is at precisely $256. So the midterm target can vary from exchange to exchange. When you calculate, and considering the biggest exchanges, it is between $256 and $333. I am manifesting it clearly on a 6-monthly time frame again. As always, I am not sharing any figure here as trading advice, and emphasize that these are my own targets. When the financial system settles, XRP is expected to set 256 plus as a new dip and build further on this level. We are so close to breaking the 6-monthly time frame resistance as can be seen on the chart. Is this a dream? For me, no. It's pure math based on Elliott waves, and unless otherwise proven, it will stand as a solid fact. Enjoy your weekend. And here it is right here. Looking at this right here, leg up 1, pull back 2, leg up 3, short pull back 4, and then a giant leg up again. That's where we're at here. And we're looking at these candles as 6 months, right? These are 6-month candles. So if we get above this one, maybe, just maybe, that $333 XRP is a conversation that gets a little more real every day. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. I hope you will join us in the Freedom Zone, ladies and gentlemen. There's great stuff going on inside of there, and we have been victim of censorship, and I even experienced some censorship in the last few days on YouTube in the back office. These things are very real, and that's why we created the Freedom Zone, so you can join us in there, and we'll never get interrupted by the elite, by the power elite trying to shape what we can say, think, and discuss. And it is disgusting. I'll see all of you in the Freedom Zone.